You're listening to the Table Talk with your host, Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Light. Tune in every other Thursday starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with me and a new special guest live on Facebook and Twitch. Let's start the show. What's up, everybody? My name is Anthony Irvin. Welcome to another episode of Table Talk. We're on another off night on Wednesday. So I'm going away for the Easter weekend, so I'm happy to kind of be going away a little bit and actually having a little vacation time. It's been a while since I've actually gone away, so it's going to be fun. I hope you guys are going to be able to enjoy your Easter weekend as well. If whatever you guys are maybe up to this this year. I know last year we didn't really have much. I know me and my wife, we were staying home and we had our own little Easter dinner ourselves, so it'd be cool to be able to kind of spend it with family this year too. And along with that, thank you to my patrons for their continuous support. Thank you to Bernadette, David, and Mary. If you want to be a patron and support the show and get some extra exclusive content and also some more bonus footage from tonight's show that did not make the show, make sure you consider yourself and become a patron over on Patreon, the Table Talk Patreon page, for as low as $1 a month. And I would love to have you there. We have a awesome private Table Talk community over there that is growing by the month, and I really appreciate all the support that they give me. They actually help me out with making a new segment tonight that you guys are going to be able to see tonight. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And so we have a really awesome and fun guest tonight. I think we met a couple years back at an open mic. So we have a lot to talk about, and she's a wonderful, talented musician. So let's welcome June Leonardi of Almost June. Hey, June, how are you?
Good. How are you, Anthony? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
I love the shirt. I didn't get one. Now you've got, my
Yes.
staple black shirt from like 1998, but like if I had that t-shirt, I'd be as cool as you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Hey, it's so I was actually had this shirt made. One of my patrons actually made it, my mom, and so the patrons who actually subscribe to the page, they get their own Table Talk t-shirt. So
I love it.
Maybe
I'll have to become a patron.
I should be able to give it to some of my, my guests after they, show their support for, being on the show too, and because I usually don't have much merch of my own anymore, so it's like one little T-shirt that I've made, so it's been a hot commodity lately.
There you go.
So what's been going on with you lately?
Well, I'd like to say that I've been deep into trying to focus on some of my original music, which I only really started recording last year. So that's been fun. I released my first single last April, but I decided to hold off on the rest of the songs until I have at least an EP. So I've been busy doing that. Plus, I have 4 children, so that keeps me busy, especially the youngest one. And my full-time job that pays for all of my toys and instruments and fun things.
Yep.
So
I hear you.
That's what I've been up to.
So for the people that may not know you who are watching, why don't you give everybody a little, background to who you are and about a little bit about your music?
Absolutely. So for those of you out there who may not have been a career musician, I'm your inspiration. So I'm originally from North Jersey, actually right outside of New York City.
Very nice.
I wound up in the Philadelphia area because I wound up going to Temple University when I went to college. And I was actually a full scholarship NCAA Division I competitive gymnast. You probably didn't even know that, Anthony.
I did not. That is first time hearing that.
So my wonderful skills on the floor exercise, balance beam bars, and vault paid for my business administration education from the Fox School of Business.
That's cool.
So that's where, So that's how I wound up in the Philadelphia area. And, after college, I got married and raised children. And it was about, I've always loved, I've always had a passion for music like a lot of people. And Always tinkered around here and there with, a guitar that sat in my living room. But I really only started to take it seriously, I want to say 5, maybe going on 6 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I decided when some of my children started to get a little older that I needed something for myself.
Right.
That wasn't my job,
Yeah.
that wasn't, something for my own internal joy, and something that I could work at. And this just proves that you don't have to start doing music and even songwriting for that matter,
Exactly.
right off the bat. Um, you can really pick it up in any stage of your life.
And that's the best thing
Um,
about it, that you don't
yeah,
there's no timestamp on like, oh, I'm too old to be playing music. Like, I mean, some people have that vision, but I'll be playing until somebody necessarily tells me to stop, or if even if they tell me, I mean, I'd have to probably just have no more arms or legs in order to stop playing. So
yeah, I agree with you completely. So I want to say it was a friend of mine who encouraged me to go to an open mic, and I started going. I was nervous. I was sure it was pretty terrible. I was singing cover songs, and it was probably a year or two into that when I got my first gig playing at the Grace Winery in Glen Mills. And I was there a few times, and that's where I met my duo partner, Chris
uh-huh.
Ursillo, who I've been playing with for over 5 years.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
And
that's
your
been
and
super
your duo
fun.
being Almost June, correct?
Right. So my duo is Almost June. We play our own version of covers on, your classic rock, songs from maybe starting even the 70s to current. And it just kind of runs the gamut. And we like to put our own spin on it. Chris plays bass and he plays percussion,
Mm-hmm.
and I play the guitar and mandolin, and we both sing and harmonize. So it's truly a wonderful outlet, and it's really creative and fun. And then about 2 years ago is when I just decided to start thinking about writing music. And
Mm-hmm.
I started collaborating with my friend Matt Vantine,
Yes. Yes.
who, shameless plug, if you're watching, this guy is like one of the most talented songwriters, guitar players, pianists. Like he's just so super super talented. It's crazy. And I probably would have never, finished my first song if it wasn't for him.
Mm-hmm.
So, um
Yeah, I
Matt,
have yet to really work with Matt, but the times where we were hanging out at open mics, I can tell he had a really distinct musical mind, and that kind of captured that really took me by surprise when I first met him, and because there's not many people that you come across that have that type of like musical mind that kind of just can think of something and just put it right down the paper and everything. So
yep.
he definitely has an ear and mind for music. Very talented.
Yeah. And I feel like, and I don't know if this has happened to you, Anthony, but I feel like people come into your life like at the right time
Hmm.
when you're ready to do something. Like
Yeah.
when I was playing solo and I met Chris, and when I was kind of ready, it just Matt came into my life. And that just like kind of keeps happening even as I continue to collaborate with other amazing artists in this area. I mean, I really feel that it's just a progression of
Right.
things happen when they should.
Absolutely. I feel the same way.
And you have to have an open mind and just have an open heart and just go with it.
Yeah.
Not be afraid.
Yeah.
My
I
kids
I
laughed at
definitely.
me when I told them I was going to play music. They laughed at me. They were like, "Really?"
And here you are.
And you know what? On the flip side of that, I think it sets a really good example. Like if you put your mind to something, you can do it. It doesn't matter where you are in your stage of life. It
Yeah.
really doesn't.
Absolutely. And
I
I've
mean, maybe
seen
if I
you.
was a cheerleader, it would matter, but musician, it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean you can't really pinpoint that on everything. There is usually a cap for some things, but when it comes to music, that I think the age limit is unlimited. You know,
Hmm.
so But yeah, I mean, I've seen you perform at the open mics, and we met at an open mic, I think in Drexel Hill a couple years back, and hearing you, and I think you were playing with Matt and a couple other guys, and your music talents definitely caught my eye, and I'm like, okay, I mean, because when you first like see people at the open mics, you don't necessarily see them that they're gonna. You think like, oh, okay, that guy might go up, or that girl seems like she might go up, but then when I saw you, I'm like, oh, okay, she can actually play and she can sing, okay, and she's really doing it up there. So and we've kind of kept in contact, and so I'm glad to be able to have you on the show tonight and be able to talk a little bit more about your music and what we've been up to. But yeah, so June, what actually got you into songwriting? Because I know you're a artist that got into playing guitar and music later in life, but also it's one thing actually picking up the guitar and using it as necessarily not necessarily an outlet, but something that you wanted to also take up. But what made you actually want to start songwriting as well?
That's a great question. So, I think starting out as a performer, playing covers, I started to really, you know, a lot of times when musicians play cover songs, you can play them just like the record, or you can kind of take them, listen to them, and make them your own. And I think I really found a lot of joy in kind of making some of the covers my own and getting really artistic with it.
Hmm.
And I never had any aspiration to be a songwriter ever. It was like, oh, I love playing music. This brings me joy. I'm just going to do it,
Right.
and that was that. And so when Chris and I would get together and we'd kind of put spins on songs, I just found that part of it, and performing these covers in our own way. It gave me the confidence to be able to say, hey, I think I might be able to do this myself. And that
Uh huh.
took, you know, playing out for 5 years,
Yeah.
rehearsing and getting comfortable in front of people and gaining that confidence. It took time. And so like I was saying before, it's a progression and things happen when you're ready. Like it wasn't a planned thing.
Right.
And just one day I had this song in my head and I kept going, I can't get the song out of my head, the song out of my head. And I kept going, what song is it? And I'd pick up my phone. I'd be like, what song is that? And then I realized it wasn't any song. It wasn't a
Uh
song.
huh.
Like it was in my head. Um, and so at that point, I just kind of felt like it was just, I could do it on my own. And hi, Lisa. Thank you so much. That's Lisa. That's Chris's girlfriend.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
I know
I
she
see.
can't talk back, but I
Yeah.
see she's here. So yeah, so I think that that's just how it progressed. In my most recent one that I'm recording right now, it was this past Christmas, and I was sitting in the living room with my 22-year-old daughter,
Hmm.
and I had just gotten feedback from somebody. Who was it? It was a songwriter. I don't know if I read it somewhere or somebody said it to me or something. They said, you know what? What makes songs really resonate is if they're simple enough to understand from a 20 something year old.
Hmm.
And I thought, hmm, Ava, that's one of my daughter's names. I said,
Uh
Ava, what do you think of this? Do you understand this? And
huh.
I played the song because it was like a concept I was working on. She's like, yeah, I get it. You're this, you're that, you're whatever, you're feeling this, you're feeling that. And I was like, okay, I think this is a good song. Because if it was too complicated or too abstract, she would have been like, that's stupid. She doesn't hold back. Um, so that was just like kind of a recent way that I, threw a concept out there and vetted it with the, generation, whatever that is. I don't even know what
Gotcha.
they call the 20 something, Gen X, Gen Z, but I don't
I
know.
don't get into any of it because I'm a part of like the millennials, but I don't feel like I'm like in the older section of the millennials, but I'm like I don't want to be categorized with that because I don't even act like anything like that, so I try to just not even like get into those certain categories, but it's funny how they, we've categorized like everything's like a categorization these days. But you know,
Yeah,
but I was gonna put up
totally.
Dan's question because he had a question for you, but he ended up later saying that you kind of I think you answered the question for him, but he's saying, are there any particular topics you like to write about, or do you wait to get hit with a situation? But I think he said that you had later answered the question,
Well, I mean,
unless you have something
yeah,
further to go off of. Yeah.
the situation is exactly that. So, like in that, a lot most of the time, and this is any song really that you hear. Like, there's so many songs just about love.
Hmm.
But love can take, so many different twists and turns. That's why there's so many songs on love. But a lot of them are about, how relationships, but not necessarily relationships with, me say, a romantic partner, but maybe even children or parents. Or
Uh huh.
so a lot of them are, I would say, revolve around. I'm trying to think of all the songs so far that I have, and they're mostly about relationships. The one that I'm recording now that I'm just was actually one that I wrote completely on my own without any input. It's called Wise Up, and it's about, you know, wanting to change and improve and wise up,
Right.
and, and how it's hard to, everything. Your life is a journey. It's never just reaching a destination. So that one wasn't really about love, but most of them have been.
Yeah, a lot of my songs are kind of like relationship wise. There's like I guess I get a lot of ideas just from relationships or but I try to keep it as like like love, like hope, positivity type things. But I always seem to go back to that like relationship type of lyric. I mean, I guess it's just maybe something that I've always you know grown up with, that type of style of singing about somebody,
Hmm.
or people singing about certain things of like love or relationships. But I always
Hmm.
tend to write it. I'm not not necessarily I'm not, but I guess I really haven't written anything that's kind of like more melodramatic. And I mean, because not that I don't usually try to say that I don't really have much of a thing to really be mellow about, but I've never really had anything to kind of write that's like not necessarily like on the darker sense, but it's always been like more like upbeat type lyrics instead of kind of
Oh
being like
Lord.
more drowned out and sad.
So the opposite of what I just sang, basically.
Yeah. And I guess it just depends on the musician. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I've been pretty much the opposite. I don't think there's much like I, I'm not saying there isn't joy in my life, but I'm saying
Right.
like sometimes the topics, to Dan's question, the topics are usually where I struggle. So the one I'm one of the ones I'm working on right now, besides Wise Up, which again is a struggle, I want to wise up, is Don't Tell Me.
Hmm.
And that's the one I pitched to my daughter, and it's about, like, stop telling me, don't tell me how to look, don't tell me what to say,
Mm.
like, don't tell me what to think, don't tell me who I am. And it
Yeah.
repeats throughout and I'm not angry, but I'm just like, I should play that one at some point. But uh it's not happy.
Right. Yeah. There was a thing that I was watching the other day, and there was a guy talking about lyric writing, and he was saying, with a lot of pop music, with your lyrics sometimes try not to make it like your lyrics too happy or bright and everything, because sometimes you can do a pop song but make your lyrics a little bit more darker to offset the
Hmm.
kind of thing. So it's kind of a cool concept, because I've always thought of pop music being happy and everything's happy go lucky, but it's kind of cool to kind of still see that you can make a happy song but have like maybe more setback or darker lyrics to it. So I would like to, I mean, I haven't come across or I don't really know of a song that I can kind of give an example about that, but if I do, I'll probably message you.
Yeah, so I'd like, oh, and Tim is on the stream. Yeah, he wrote that song I just played, or he had pitched it to me and I helped finish it. But my what it's interesting to hear you say that, because I have absolutely no formal training, not just in anything music wise, but in songwriting as well. And
Hmm.
sometimes I don't want to say like learning how to learning a topic like you just said is a bad thing, but sometimes I feel like my complete ambivalence to any rules just helps me just like get it out in any form without
Right.
worrying about if it's happy, sad, or whatever.
Hmm.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, and
I don't know if that
that's
makes any. It doesn't need to make sense.
yeah, and that's the thing with songwriting. There's really no rules to it. I mean, it's just kind of, you can necessarily write about anything, and it's kind of just whatever comes to mind. And, because, lyrics have always been something that I've struggled with, like that I have to kind of be in a zone to write. Not many times do I get things where lyrics just pop into me. Usually it's more music that I'm like, okay, I got to write that down, and I'll just record that on my phone. And then sometimes
Hmm.
if I'm writing that, and if I get a melody, then I'll just hum that out. And then if a lyric comes around, then it's like kind of just step one, step two. Uh, but lately it's always been like, for me with my writing process, like, writing music first, and then whatever I'm feeling in that song, or whatever that song kind of makes me feel, or if I have a certain melody or something, I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll write about this, or I'm feeling this type of way towards it, so maybe I'll stick towards this, and then I can try to, get in the mindset of what the song's talking about to be able to, get some lyrics out. But
Awesome.
so I'm trying to think, June. With the open mic scene, I know we kind of met with the open mic scene. So what were your thoughts about, like, I know you started out in the music scene with going to the open mic, so which certain open mics did you like to go to, and what made you kept going back, that made you so interested in going back and keep going to those certain open mics?
Well, it's interesting because the ones that I used to go to when I first started out about 5 years ago are no longer there. So, one major one that was run by a guy named Rick Penny, who was so encouraging, was at the Riddle Ale House in Media, and they've taken that place down.
Yes, that was a really good place.
So that was a real mecca of, a lot of local artists coming together
Hmm.
in bands that would just come to collaborate with other folks. And I met a lot of people there that I still am in contact with. Um, so,
So Dan, you can follow June on Facebook at Almost June Tunes. So.
yep, Facebook or Instagram. And then the other one was, as you mentioned, where we met in Drexel Hill
Hmm.
at J.D. McGillicuddy's, which I
Yeah.
believe is also no longer there.
Yeah, they're under a new
So
name.
then
I
I
forget the new name, but yeah.
Yeah, and then I found my new home just most recently, maybe about 2 years ago, on Wednesday nights at, Tom and Jerry's.
Uh
So
huh.
they have what they call wings and jams on Wednesday night, and just met so many people there, and
Nice.
that'll probably pick back up soon
Hmm.
from an open mic perspective. But yeah, so that's where I've been traveling around, meeting folks in the music community and trying to collaborate in a fun environment.
That's great. Yeah, because I think that I started out, when I was just getting out of my bands, uh, I was just starting to write some music, and I'm like, all right, well, I always wanted to write some acoustic songs and kind of just write them for myself. But I'm like, well, maybe I'll release them, see what people say. And then I'm like, oh crap, I actually got to be out performing this stuff. I've never been on stage by myself, so I started out, going to open mics, and I always tell people that if you want to start out, trying to, go out and start playing out to people, go to open mics, because
Yep.
they're so supportive. Everybody is there to network and help each other out. It's a positive community, whatever open mic place you go to. It's I've never had a bad experience at open mic. Everybody's always so welcoming to at least listen to you, and at least give you some feedback as well. So especially it's
Mhm.
been a really good thing to kind of start out with, and that kind of gave my confidence in order to be on stage by myself. And I think like a month or two later, then I started playing original shows and around my local area. Then I got to be able to play on the main stage of the Trocadero when it was actually a thing. I know the Trocadero with I think it was 2 years ago they ended up shutting down. So that was a big moment for being a solo artist, being able to play on the main stage. I think it was twice that I played on the main stage. So with so many bigger national acts that went through there, my older band headlined the Trocadero before with our own show, and that was like a very big thing for us, being like teenagers being on the being on the Trocadero stage. So we were thinking of like all the national acts that went through there. I'm like, wow, we stepped on the same stage as these guys. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So exciting.
It's always cool to kind of play the same stages as the bands that you look up to, and especially if you're influenced by them and knowing that they've played the same stages that you've gone, and hopefully that you can continue to build up to their level as well.
Yeah, so I haven't played on any stages I can brag about yet, but it's only been 5 years. So I think when all this opens up, I've got a slot at the Philly Fire,
Nice.
um, which I'm just waiting for Karen to let me know when. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I think that's perfect venue for me. It's very intimate, and
Yes. I don't think I've
she
played at the
very
fire
much.
before, but yeah, it's definitely good for a solo artist because like yeah, I think I did. It was like a very small show, but yeah, it's very like small little venue and perfect for solo people because you can fit about a good like 20, 30, 40, probably not right now, but you can fit a good 20, 30, 40 people in there, and you can fill that little space out, which is really nice.
Right, but that's one where I can say, oh well, John Legend was on this stage, and
Mm-hmm.
Maroon 5 was on this stage, and My
Yep.
Chemical Romance was on this stage. But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have that yet.
Well, it will come. We'll get June at the fire, and we'll all be there to support you as well. So
Thank you, Anthony.
So you were talking about some of your influences earlier. Do you have anybody else that you kind of take your influences or songwriting ideas from that you're like, oh, I can't not think of like a songwriting idea without listening to this person or something.
I would say most of the artists that I mentioned earlier, like Sheryl Crow and Jewel and Sarah Bareilles and Nora Jones, like they were influences. But I don't know if I have to listen to their song to come up with an idea. I just think that my style just leans in that direction, and maybe it's because I've listened to it so much, or maybe it's because it's just my preference.
Uh huh.
I don't know. I can't define it. I don't have to, but no, but to your point, I don't have to necessarily say, listen to that artist to get
Right.
inspired per se. Yeah.
Right. Right. Well, I think we're gonna try to get into this new segment. So, before we get in, I just want to, say anybody who is just tuning in or has been watching, thank you guys for tuning in. You guys are watching Table Talk. I am Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Life, your host, and I have the very talented June Leonardi of Almost June here with me tonight as my special guest. So I really appreciate her being with me, and we're gonna start out a new segment that I'd like to get started here. We're going to have a little spin wheel, and there's three different different segment topics. And I was asking my Patreons last week, which one of these topics do you like more? And they were all saying you should just do all three and kind of just pick one for the night. So I'm like, all right, well, maybe I'll just decided to put it on a spin wheel, and whatever topic it fits, that's going to be our topic tonight. So let's get the wheel going here. This is the Table Talk wheel, the debut of the Table Talk wheel. So
Fancy schmancy.
let's give this little guy a spin and see what we come up with. So we have three different topics. So, and this is the first time we're spinning this wheel, guys. So if it looks like it's stopping, because I've had times where it wasn't stopping, and I was like, okay, well, hopefully this doesn't happen live where it just keeps on going and doesn't stop. So looks like we are going to do a post pandemic topic, or we'll probably tonight do a certain other question that I had in mind too. So the question tonight that we're going to talk about is June. And knowing this is more music, I think this is going to be between you and me. But we can
Hmm.
probably, tweak some stuff, and the chat can kind of be involved as well. So the topic for tonight, for the certain segment of, we're going to call this the topic question segment for tonight. So, what's the one thing about being a musician that you love, that you can that makes you want to continue to do what you love?
Ah, that's easy. Two things. Number one, no rules. You do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can play whatever you want. You can sing. Like literally everything you do in your life, you have to wait on a line. You got to follow a rule. You got to follow a process. You got to do this. You got to do that. You have to do it this way, that way. Um, it's just open. It's like an open canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I think we talked about this earlier. It is um, uh, age agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
So, unlike gymnastics that we talked about that I got a scholarship for in college, you kind of can't do that after, pretty much after you graduate around your 20s. Like your body's not going to do it anymore. But when it comes to music, whatever stage of life you're in, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
That's the beautiful
It,
thing about
it
music,
really
isn't
doesn't matter. And if someone has told you that it matters, it doesn't.
it? Yeah.
Period. End of
True.
story.
Yeah. That's the
Don't
beautiful thing
listen to
about
them.
music, that there is no limit. You can start in your 60s, and it might be a little more difficult, but you can still start it. You can do whenever you
Not more
want.
difficult. Well, in the only sense it's more difficult is you have to balance it generally with the job that you have to pay your mortgage. But
Yeah.
the alternative to that, if you're younger, is that you still have to live with your parents, and I don't know how much easier that is.
No, yeah. Hey, I mean, it's definitely a plus sometimes, when then you have a little more time on your hands.
Right.
But going off that, I'll kind of give my little, answer. I gotta say, as you know, being in a band since I was 15, and kind of going through different atmospheres and playing shows and doing this, I gotta say, the one thing about being a musician that I love is being able to play songs and play out in front of people, and then hear their reactions, and then every once in a while having somebody come out to me and say, hey, like, especially in my original music, I've had numerous people come out to me and saying, like, your song that you had really hit me in a certain point, and it really, I've been playing these songs, and it hit me, and I really love the meaning to it. It's helped me get through a certain time, and that makes me continue to write music and do what I love, because when you're writing music, you always think, well, is anybody really going to like this? Is anybody going to connect with it? And it only takes one person. It only takes that one person that kind of just connects with it, and it may not have to be connected to the same connection of it that you wrote it for, but as long as they feel something towards it. And every time I have that kind of just lets me know, okay, I'm doing something right. It's something that I love doing, and I think I'll continue doing music until I am physically able not to.
Absolutely. That is rewarding, right? Knowing that somebody heard it and it moved them in a certain way, and it only takes one person. But at the end of the day, um, it starts with your joy, and even if no one's listening, although you'd hope that's not the case, it's an outlet of creativity, and you want to share it, and yeah, you hope for that.
So you've played two songs that you haven't released yet. And you said are you gonna have you started recording those, or you're in the process of going to record those?
Yes, I'm recording those, and one other right now, and making good progress. So, yeah, I'm
Do
hoping
you
to
have a
have an
plan
EP
though?
soon.
Okay, yeah, good.
I don't want to set a date, because if you set a date,
Mm-hmm.
then you get stressed out, and then when you get stressed out, your creativity goes through the, through the, drain.
Yeah, I
Um,
hear you.
so like, it's gonna happen when it's gonna happen, but I'm trying to keep up the momentum and the process.
Hmm.
In a, in a, like I said earlier, like everything happens when it's supposed to happen. So
Absolutely. And
yeah, I mean,
and
my goal in my head last year was spring of this year. That's not going to happen, and I'm fine with that.
and it's kind of it's good not to necessarily say like, oh, I'm not going to make a date and just kind of let it go, but then also sometimes it's like you got to make a date because then sometimes it never gets done. But
Hmm.
it and then again, but if you're like that person's like, okay, I won't make a date, but I know when I'll be done, then you don't have to worry about it. But like for
It'll get done.
but it's like it's for somebody like me, like sometimes I have to have a date because then I'll just be like, I'm never gonna get this done if I don't have some type of end date that I got to get this done for. And I'll just be continuing to work on that, like my songs or like certain things. Like I'll get to a song, and like I must probably have like two songs right now that are kind of structured out, but I haven't really released them because one, I don't have lyrics for them yet, and two, I've just been like, kind of letting them sit in the back burner, and then I'm like, oh yeah, well I have this other idea, so I keep jumping back through ideas, and I'm like, oh well. I'll get back to that song in a minute. I got to get this one out of my head, and then it turns into like three, four, five songs down later, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, well I got to remember to get that first one that I told myself I was going to get done."
Yeah, well, that's an interesting concept. So my career has been in the financial industry for a very long time, and
Hmm.
once you get to a certain level, you learn to make set goals and dates and all this kind of stuff, and
Uh
that's how
huh.
you improve and blah blah blah. And that's all fine and good in business, but I don't look at this as a business, and I want to have a part of my life where I'm not stressing myself out. And like I said earlier, like my entire career, which is all of 5 going on 6 years in music, has not had a date set. It's just kind of evolved. I'm a the kind of person who, I'm gonna continue. I'm not gonna get lazy about
Hmm.
it. So it works for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one question just popped in my head for you that I know you've played guitar, and earlier we're saying you needed something to kind of just give you something else to learn or something. What made you actually pick the guitar? Like, is the guitar the only instrument you play, or are you a multi instrument, or is the guitar like your only instrument you play?
So I picked the guitar originally because, if you're going to play solo, you have to play a rhythm instrument
Hmm.
generally. A guitar is one of them, and potentially, I guess you could consider the keyboards to be
Yeah.
something you could play and sing solo. You know, um, other instruments are accompaniment instruments. You can't go out and play the bass and play a solo show, or
Right.
so the guitar was natural. Selection. I want to say in the last 3 years, I got a bunch of my friends got together, namely Chris. I think he organized it. Got me a mandolin.
Hmm.
So I would say, a basic player on the mandolin. So that when we play together, it really adds a nice, aspect or dimension to the
Uh huh.
songs if he's playing guitar. And then there's certain songs that it really resonates with, especially if the original song had mandolin in it. So that's another instrument that I play,
Right. And
but it's
all
not a solo instrument.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of make it a so, but it can also accompany, other people too. But it's
Right.
that's the thing with guitar. You can kind of use it for multi purposes. Like you can use it for yourself. You can accompany somebody else with it. So it just depends on your feel. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Hmm.
your duo, Almost June, obviously it has your name in it. But what made you choose the name? Is there other than I mean, is it just well, I wanted something and then my name, or did it just kind of what was the thing that kind of made you think of Almost June?
I'd love to say I was the mastermind behind that name, but I wasn't. So when I first got together with Chris, his job is in marketing
Uh
in
huh.
his job, and he came back with a couple of options, and Almost June was one of them.
Hmm.
So I have to give him credit for the name, even though it doesn't have his name in it.
So is there
But
like,
he's certainly the eye he's definitely the eye candy of the duo, Chris
gotcha.
Priscilla. I think
Because
he's
when I thought
watching.
of it
He's
like
probably
almost
watching.
June, like you think like, oh, okay, well, almost the month of June. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of unique. And then you have, somebody in the duo that
No.
is June, but that'd have been a nice kind of thing to kind of make it as like, oh, well, it's like almost June, and we have like a person named June in the duo.
Right, so the reason that out of the selections he provided, I liked that one was what I felt it insinuated, at least to me, was almost June. June is me, obviously,
Hmm.
but almost June implies a work in progress
Hmm.
all the time. You're always a work in progress. You're never at your destination. And that's okay. And that it was this kind of that's how I felt about the name when I heard it. It's like,
Right.
this thing that's always just um in progress and improving and evolving, and you're almost there kind of thing. Although there's another band called Almost There. So
I like that. That's a nice little,
that's how I
interpretation.
thought about it.
That's
Yeah.
cool. I like that, and that's a whole again. It's like how I was kind of saying with my song. Like you can kind of take it as what you want, but again, you kind of almost have like two meanings to the song, or the two meanings to the the name. And I mean, I obviously like your meaning better, but
Yeah. I'm almost me, and I'm always going to be almost June. Like I'm June, but I'm not June yet. One day I might be June, but
I like that.
maybe not.
That's a cool little concept. I like that. June, where can people, not only Spotify, but I know you have a website that people can find you at, right?
Yeah, so I have a website at almostjunetunes.com, and then the Facebook and Instagram with the handle at almost June Tunes. And before I release the new singles, as I finish them, I'm putting them on SoundCloud under Almost June.
Okay.
So some of the one of the songs that I played tonight, you could hear there as well.
So that's SoundCloud .com/almost June.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
like if I go to SoundCloud and I search for Almost June, then any all my songs come up as me, under me as an artist.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on
Mhm.
SoundCloud too, so I'll have to give you a follow.
Awesome.
We'll have to, give a little support for support. And we
Of
never did
course.
our cheers. So, if
No, but I finished my
I'm almost done
tea.
too. So we can kind of do like a mock cheers, like cheers to you.
I
I'm
was
usually
pacing myself.
But hey, we're having fun, and I definitely had a fun time with you, June. It's been really fun. I had a good time talking with you, and thank you everybody who was watching tonight, and people who are watching later. Really appreciate you guys tuning in, and if you guys want to watch some more bonus footage of me and June, make sure you go on the Patreon account. You can become a Patreon by going to patreon.com/table talk, the little table_talk. So there's 3 tiers in there that you can choose from, and there's usually some monthly content, exclusive monthly content. You can get some audio and video downloads of these episodes, some bonus footage that doesn't make the show, and also some great things that are happening behind the scenes, and we're trying to build the private community there, so I'd love to have you guys join it. So feel free to check that out later tonight, and it's in the link here for Facebook and Twitch, so make sure you click that link. And make sure you guys are sharing the broadcast. I really appreciate it. And once again, thank you to my guest, June Leonardi of Almost June. Really appreciate you. And I hope to, do this again with you. Really appreciate it. Is there anything you would want to...
Thank you so much. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone who is listening, and see you next time.
Yeah. Hey, you guys, this has been Table Talk. Thank you all for being here. My name is Anthony Irvin. I will see you guys on another episode of Table Talk. And, happy Easter to everybody. Hope you guys have a great weekend. And we'll be seeing you guys on the next episode. So thank you guys. Have a good weekend. See you on the next one. Bye, guys.